I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Jake, and I've been married to Lisa for about 7 years now. Things weren't perfect, no marriage is, but I always thought we had a solid understanding. We had our routine, our little routines that made life predictable and safe. We had our ups and downs, but I always believed in us. Until recently, that is. The signs started popping up maybe a month ago. Small things first. Lisa behaving weirdly on her phone, hiding her screen when I'd walk into the room. She started canceling plans with her friends, claiming she was just busy at work. But she'd never been the type to blow off her friends or leave her phone face down all the time. That was strange. Then there was the way she'd get defensive if I asked about her day, like she was hiding something. I brushed it off at first, telling myself she was just stressed or tired from her job, but something about her attitude felt off. And then I noticed she was dressing differently, more revealing, more provocative even. She'd wear these tight tops, short skirts, and when I'd ask her about it, she'd roll her eyes and call me paranoid. "You're overthinking," she'd sneer, her tone bitchy and dismissive. Honestly, I started to feel like I was losing my wife to some other person, someone who wasn't me. But I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe she was just trying to look good for herself or boost her confidence. I wanted to believe that, even if my gut was telling me something else. The real shock came when I found her phone. I was in the living room doing some work on my laptop when I noticed a series of messages pop up on her notifications. It was her best friend, Emily, but the texts weren't just friendly. They were flirty, full of inside jokes and, more disturbingly, talking about hooking up, sneaking away for sex, and being free from the constraints of marriage. I saw her say she was tired of pretending to be just friends with me, that she felt trapped, and that she wanted to run away with Emily. The worst part, she kept mentioning how she'd meet her new guy, how they'd leave town and start fresh somewhere else. I was furious. I do even know how long she'd been hiding this from me, but that moment was like a punch to the stomach. My mind was racing. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and sick. How could she do this? How could she lie to my face, pretending everything was fine? I thought I knew her, but clearly I was wrong. I slammed her phone shut, my hands trembling, and waited for her to come home. When she finally walked in that evening, I was already waiting, my heart pounding. That's when I confronted her. When Lisa walked through the door, I could see she was trying to act normal, like nothing was wrong. But there was this flicker in her eyes, like she knew I'd found out. I didn't waste any time. I told her I saw her messages, that I knew about her affair with Emily, and that I knew they were planning to run away together. Her face twisted into this nasty smirk, like she was amused or maybe even annoyed that I finally caught her. "Oh, Jake," she said, rolling her eyes, "you're overreacting. You always jump to conclusions. You think I'd actually leave you for Emily? Seriously, that's just ridiculous." Her tone was so dismissive, like she was insulting my intelligence, but I wasn't buying it. I told her I knew they'd been planning this for weeks, that her messages proved everything. That's when she started lying, of course. She said she was just talking about a work project, that she and Emily never did anything more than flirt in some silly way, that it was all in her head and I was just jealous or insecure. I felt like I was losing my mind. How could she sit there and lie so easily? I asked her why she was dressing like that, if she was just working late or going out with friends, and she basically shot back with some snarky remark about how I was just jealous because I couldn't keep her satisfied. She told me I was boring, that I didn't know how to give her what she needed, and that she deserved better. That she was just exploring, that everyone needs a little excitement, and that I was too uptight to understand. Honestly, I was furious, but also heartbroken. I had loved her, trusted her, and now I was realizing she'd been lying straight to my face for months. I kept asking her who she really was, what she really wanted, and she just snapped. She called me paranoid, insecure, and said I was the one who pushed her into these situations because I was so controlling, that I was just jealous, and that she'd never cheat on me if I wasn't such a damn pain all the time. That's when she looked me dead in the eye and said, if I wanted to leave, I would have already. But I'm not stupid. I know what I have here. You're just overreacting because you're insecure. That line cut deep. I wanted to believe her, I really did, but I knew the truth. And in that moment I felt this cold resolve settle over me. I was going to get to the bottom of this, no matter what it took. I already suspected that they were planning something worse, and I had to find out what. The fact that she was so dismissive, so quick to deny everything, only made me more determined. I started digging through her stuff, her email, social media, even her hidden apps. I knew I needed proof, concrete proof, that she was planning to leave me for Emily, and I wasn't going to stop until I found it. The betrayal ran so deep I could barely breathe. How could she do this to me? How could she throw away everything we built? I kept thinking about the future I'd imagined, our home, our routines, our life together, and now it all felt like it was crumbling. I was angry, hurt, and confused. I didn't know what was worse, the fact that she'd cheated or that she was so good at lying about it. Over the next few days, I couldn't concentrate on anything. My mind kept circling back to her messages, her lies, the way she dismissed my feelings like they were nothing. I started noticing more signs, little things she did that she thought went unnoticed. She'd leave her phone around more often, but now I was watching her like a hawk. I even installed a keylogger on her laptop, just to see if I could catch her slip up again. I know, that's probably crossing a line, but I was desperate. I needed proof. One night, I decided to confront her again. I was exhausted from all the paranoia, but I couldn't hold back anymore. I brought her into the living room, told her I had enough of her bullshit and I just wanted the truth. I asked point blank if she was actually planning to run away with Emily. Her response was another eye roll, that dismissive sneer, and she looked at me like I was some crazy stalker. She said, "Jake, you're really losing it. I don't know what fantasy you're living in, but I'm not leaving you. Emily's not even interested in me that way anymore. Honestly, you're just paranoid and insecure. Maybe you should see someone about that." That last line pushed me over the edge. I looked at her and said, "Stop lying. I saw your messages. I know what you're planning. You're not just talking about exploring, you're planning to leave me with nothing." Her face froze for a second, then she started laughing, a cold, harsh laugh. "Oh, Jake," she said, "you really think I'd run off with a slut like Emily? Please, she's just a friend. You're so insecure, it's pathetic. Maybe if you weren't so controlling, I'd actually want to stay." At that moment, I felt this strange mix of rage and heartbreak. I was so furious I wanted to scream, but I just sat there trying to hold it together. I told her I wouldn't be played anymore, that I knew she was lying. That's when she threw a real curveball. She looked at me, eyes glinting with this sharpness, and said, "Fine. If you think I'm cheating, then maybe I should just leave. Maybe I should pack my bags tonight and go stay with Emily. Let's see how you deal with that, Jake." That was the first time she openly threatened to leave me. It hit me like a punch to the stomach. I realized she had already made up her mind. She was ready to walk away. I felt my blood boil. I wasn't going to let her do that without a fight. Something inside me snapped. I told her she could go, but not without a fight. I promised I'd confront Emily myself and get to the bottom of everything. I needed to know exactly what kind of game she was playing. The next morning, I started planning. I knew I couldn't just sit around waiting for her to leave. I needed leverage, something she couldn't deny. I carefully set up a hidden camera in our living room, aimed at the front door. I wanted to catch her packing her bags if she really decided to go that night. I also called Emily, pretending to be my own investigator, and set up a meeting to talk with her face to face. I was determined to get everything out in the open, even if it meant destroying what little trust was left. I felt sick, but also oddly relieved. I was finally taking control of the situation. I didn't sleep that night. Every minute felt like an hour. I kept thinking about what was going to happen, how I'd feel if she actually left, and whether I could ever forgive her. But deep down, I knew I'd never forget what I'd found out, and I'd never let her forget either. My life was about to change forever, and I was ready to face whatever came next. That night, I stayed awake, glued to the hidden camera feed. Every little noise outside made my heart race. I was waiting for her to make a move. Around midnight, I saw her start gathering some clothes, her phone in hand, her face tense and determined. She was packing her bags, no doubt planning to leave. I felt the adrenaline surge through me. This was it. I was finally going to get to the truth. Then, just as I predicted, I saw her catch her suitcase and go to the front door. I could hear her whispering on the phone, probably Emily, confirming the plan. She was whispering like she was trying not to wake anyone, but I could hear her clearly enough. She kept saying things like, I've got everything ready, just waiting for the right time. I felt this mixture of rage and betrayal so intense it was almost physical. She was really planning to walk out that door, leaving me with nothing. I grabbed my phone and called her right then and there, voice trembling but firm. Lisa, if you're really going, I want you to know I saw everything. Don't even bother trying to deny it. You're planning to run away with Emily tonight, aren't you? Silence on the other end. For a second I thought she was going to lie her way out of it again, but then she sighed deeply and said, "Fine. You caught me. Maybe I was stupid to think I could get away with it." Her voice was cold, almost detached. It was like she was already checked out of our marriage. I told her she wasn't going anywhere, that I wasn't going to let her just walk away, not without a fight. I told her I'd call the cops if she left. Somehow that made her pause. She sneered, "Go ahead, call the cops. They'll just laugh at you. I'm done pretending. I don't love you anymore, Jake. I want out and I'm taking Emily with me. You can't stop us." That was the moment I realized she was serious. She wasn't just cheating, she was planning to leave me completely. I felt the floor shift beneath me. My world was collapsing. I begged her to think about what she was doing, that maybe there was still a way back, but she just laughed again. "It's too late for that," she said. "Goodbye, Jake, you'll see. We'll be gone before morning." I kept talking to her, trying to persuade her to stay, to reconsider, but she was relentless. Then unexpectedly she hung up. As soon as she did, she started hurriedly packing faster, her phone still in hand. I knew she was close to leaving for good. I waited a few minutes, then I rushed out of bed, grabbed my phone, and called Emily directly. I told her I knew everything, that Lisa was planning to run away tonight and that I wanted to meet her face to face. I needed to see her, hear her side, and decide what I was going to do. The next hour was chaos. I watched Lisa's car pull out of the driveway, her leaving my house like she was fleeing from her own life. I felt sick, but I also felt a strange sense of relief that I finally knew the truth. All the lies, the hiding, the sneaking, they were over now. I had the evidence, the proof. I knew about the affair, about her plans to leave, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I knew I had to confront Emily soon, but honestly, right then I just sat there staring at the empty driveway, trying to process everything. My mind kept racing. What was I supposed to do now? Could I forgive her? Should I? Or was this the end of us? The betrayal was so deep, it felt like part of me had died that night. But one thing was clear, I wasn't going to let her walk away without consequences. Whatever was coming next, I was ready for it. The pain, the anger, it was all still there, but I knew I had to face the reality. Sometimes the truth hits so hard it leaves you reeling. And right now, I felt like I was just starting to understand what that really meant. The morning after she left, I sat in the silence of our house, feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. Everything was quiet, too quiet. I kept replaying the night in my head, the sounds of her hurried footsteps, her voice on the phone, her sneering goodbye. I couldn't believe she'd actually gone through with it, that she was finally out the door, leaving me behind. It all felt so unreal, like a nightmare I'd wake up from any second. I spent the morning going over the evidence I'd collected, her messages, the recordings from the hidden camera, the call logs with Emily. I felt this mix of anger and sadness brewing. Inside me, how could she betray me like this? How could she lie for so long? I thought about all the years we'd spent together, the good times and the bad. It seemed so insignificant now compared to this betrayal. I was furious at her for thinking she could just walk away, for pretending she was innocent when I had clear proof of her planning to leave. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just sit and accept this. I called a lawyer, asked about my options, and started preparing for the worst: divorce, custody of our house, everything. But I also felt a strange urge to confront Emily, to get some answers from her directly. I felt like I needed closure, or maybe just to make her see what she'd done. I couldn't let her think she'd gotten away with it. I arranged to meet Emily at a neutral location, a quiet coffee shop downtown. I needed to look her in the eye and ask her why she'd done this, why she'd get involved with my wife behind my back. When I saw her sitting there waiting, I could tell she was nervous. She looked just as guilty as I felt. I didn't waste time. I told her I knew everything, that she'd been planning to run away with Lisa, that I'd seen all the messages, heard her on the phone planning the escape. Her face paled and she started stammering. She told me she never meant for it to get this far, that she was just lonely, that Lisa promised her excitement and adventure and she fell for it. She said they'd talked about leaving everything behind, our house, jobs, families, and starting fresh somewhere else, just the two of them. She insisted she still cared about Lisa, but she couldn't deny she'd been tempted by the thrill of it all, that she'd been so unhappy for so long that she'd felt invisible in her own life. Hearing that, I felt like my stomach was being twisted into knots. I asked her if she even thought about what she was doing to me, to our marriage. She looked away, then said, "Jake, I was just craving something different. I didn't think it would come to this. But honestly, I don't regret it. I just want to be happy." Isn't that what everyone wants? That answer cut me deep. She didn't care about what I'd been through, what we'd built. All she cared about was her own happiness, even if it meant destroying everything else. I told her she was selfish, that she'd thrown everything away, and that she was lucky I wasn't calling the cops right then and there. She just shrugged and said, "Maybe I am. Maybe I should have done it sooner." As I sat there, staring at her, I realized I was done trying to salvage something that was already broken beyond repair. I'd been naive to believe I could fix it, that I could make her see reason. I felt the last bit of trust I had evaporate completely. I knew then that I had to move on, no matter how painful it was. I filed for divorce shortly after, started the legal process, and began rebuilding my life from the ashes of our marriage. But even as I tried to put everything behind me, the ache of betrayal stayed with me. I learned that sometimes, love isn't enough to save what's already lost. That trusting someone blindly can leave you hollow. And that revenge, in some twisted way, is just a way of trying to feel in control again when everything else falls apart. I don't know if I'll ever fully get over it, but I do know one thing: I won't be fooled again. No matter how much betrayal hurts, I'll be stronger next time. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into rebuilding my life. Divorce was finalized and I moved out of the house. I didn't want to stay there anymore, not after everything. I sold the place, cut ties with the memories that haunted me, and started fresh in a different city. It wasn't easy. I'd been betrayed, humiliated, and shattered, but I was determined to come out of it stronger. I still felt the sting of the betrayal every day, but I also found a strange sense of relief. At least I knew the truth now, and I could finally start healing from it. Looking back, I realize I learned a lot from this nightmare. I learned to trust my instincts, even when they tell me I'm overreacting. I learned that some people are just selfish, manipulative, and willing to throw everything away for their own fleeting happiness. And I learned that revenge isn't always about hurting others. It's about reclaiming your own power, even if it's just a little. I never wanted her to suffer, but I needed her to see that her actions had consequences. That's why I gathered the evidence, confronted her head-on, and made sure she understood the damage she'd done. One thing I will say: this experience changed me. I no longer take things for granted. I no longer assume people are loyal without question. Trust is a fragile thing, and now I know how easily it can be broken. I also realized I have strength I never knew I possessed. I was broken, yes, but somehow I managed to pick myself up and start over. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone going through something similar, it's this: don't ignore the signs, don't pretend everything's fine when it's not. And most importantly, never let someone else's betrayal define you. You're better than that. Now I focus on myself, my career, my mental health, my future. I don't hold resentment anymore, just a quiet understanding of what happened and what I've learned from it. Sometimes I think about Lisa and Emily, wonder how they're doing, if they regret what they did. But honestly, I don't care anymore. I've moved on, and that's the best revenge I could have hoped for. Because in the end, the only person you need to be honest with is yourself. And I am finally at peace knowing I did everything I could, not just to catch her, but to reclaim my life from the chaos she left behind. That's my story. It's messy, it's painful, but it's real. And maybe, just maybe, someone reading this will realize they're not alone, that betrayal happens and that you survive it, because you have to. You always do.